I'm Jordan Bell with Texas A&M AgriLife Research and Extension, and I'm at North Plains Groundwater Conservation District's Water Conservation Center north of Dumas. And we are excited to start our second year of the Cotton and Conservation Program. With the Cotton and Conservation Program, we are looking at cotton variety performance under different irrigation levels here at the Water Center, but we are also working with regional county agents so we can see how cotton varieties perform under different irrigation levels within the water district. Of course, our objective with our variety trials is to look at the variety performance under different management conditions, and we are looking at varieties from dryland all the way through fully irrigated systems. However, at the water district, we want to see the interaction between the varieties and irrigation levels. As we look at cotton management across the district, we see that many farmers are having to manage their irrigation systems between both cotton and corn and even grain sorghum during the summer cropping season. And so we want to know and have a better understanding of the strategic application of irrigation. At this trial, we are looking at two different irrigation timings. We have an early irrigation that is initiated at Pinhead Square, and then we also have a later irrigation that we initiate at full bloom. And that later irrigation simulates cotton that is grown in conjunction with a corn crop. So those would be a corn and a cotton crop using the same irrigation system. And of course, there is really not a good time to stress that corn crop. And we want to make sure that we have optimized the irrigation on the corn crop, especially through tasseling, so that we can ensure kernel set. At that time, we can move the water to our cotton crop and really focus the irrigation on the cotton crop and help finish off that crop. In 2019, it was very interesting to see how the varieties performed, and we actually had a response by maturity class. When we look at the different maturities that are positioned for this northern cotton producing region in Texas, we are primarily focusing on early and medium early cotton varieties. And at this location, we do have 6 varieties, 3 being early and 3 being medium early varieties. In our early irrigation, the Pinhead Square treatment, we actually saw a greater yield response in our earlier maturing varieties. And that is because those varieties were not stressed throughout the season, and we were really able to maximize the production there. Our later maturing varieties actually tend to put on bolls in the upper part of the plant, and so we did not have as great of a fruit set as we did with those earlier varieties. Conversely, when we looked at the later irrigation, we saw that the early varieties actually shut down earlier in the season, and so there was a greater yield loss with irrigating later in the season with the earlier varieties. And that really does become important for a farmer trying to decide how to place varieties on limited water or water that is being shared with a companion crop such as corn. If the producer is not going to be able to concentrate water on a cotton crop and they are having to share, they might want to not just consider variety performance, but also give consideration to the maturity class. And if the crop has the risk of being stressed early in the season and shutting down, like the early varieties that are more determinate that will not recover with late season irrigation, then that producer might consider going with a medium early maturing variety, because those varieties, even if they are stressed earlier in the season, they are indeterminate, meaning that they will revert back to reproductive development later in the season when conditions are ideal, and they will continue to put on some later season bolls. Although we are expecting a few days of cool weather moving into this weekend, we actually have had several very warm days over the last several weeks. That has allowed soil temperatures to warm. Of course, many producers have been inquiring about planting cotton and asking if it is too early to plant cotton this year. Today is May the 6th, and when we look at on a calendar date, early May is early. However, when we consider the conditions, the air temperature as well as our soil temperatures, we are sitting in a very good position to plant our cotton crop. As we look at the temperatures that we are going to see over the next several days, into the 70s during the day and possibly down into the low 50s or even upper 40s at night, there is always the concern about chill injury to those seedlings, but our soils will actually buffer a lot of that temperature change because our soils are so warm. Across the region, we have been looking at soils that have been anywhere from 60 to 75 degrees as we have been planting, so we do have very warm soils. Right now, most of the soils where we have planted on irrigation have had good moisture, and so the moisture will help those soils buffer the temperature change that we will see over the next several days. And of course, as we look at cotton development, our cotton development is driven by heat, and those are those growing degree days that we accumulate. So many farmers are very interested in getting their cotton in the ground as soon as possible, considering the environmental conditions, those ambient air temperatures, as well as the soil temperature, so they can start accumulating that heat as quickly as possible and really getting this cotton crop off to an early start. So that is what we are currently seeing. We're really looking at temperatures that are much warmer than they were last year. And of course, when we look at our forecast moving into this summer, our extended forecast shows that we have a higher chance of above average temperatures moving into the summer as well. So we really are setting up this cotton crop for a completely different season. So it will be very interesting to see if we see the same conditions, the same performance of these varieties this year as we did last year.